Luke, welcome to Awards Buzz. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I told you offline, but you really are like the busiest man in television. You've got Shrinking season 3, Abbott Elementary, and you pop up on The Pit season 2. I need to talk to you about this because it's kind of like you're touching base on every sort of like you've got your prestige TV, you've got your sitcom, and then you've got like the Bill Lawrence, which I would say kind of exists in between. Like it has
Yeah.
some sitcom-y things, but how do you sort of like do that basically?
You know what? I think it's a testament to the nature of television in this day and age. I think television, although it looks similar to how it was 20, maybe 25 years ago, fundamentally the content has shifted. So, and that's the reason why Noah created the pit. It's because he said people have reached out to him and that after COVID, they were missing the kind of sensation that they felt when they watched ER. And a lot of the people who reached out were in the medical service industry. And I think that it's a testament to the evolution of our craft, of our medium. We want to see characters who look a little more real. We want to see people go through change instead of remain the same. Like your classic sitcoms like Seinfeld, where the characters stay the same the whole time. Incredible show. It built an appetite for that because of the nation's state at the time. Now we're in a different state. We require different things as viewers, and I think I say all that to say, for me as an actor, things started to click for me when I let go of the idea that I was an actor to transform, to be
Mm.
somebody who wasn't me, to to affect the dialect and the physical transformation and the prosthetics. When in reality, now in this day and age, people want you. When I had let that go, that I needed to change and be so very different from myself, and started to realize, hey, look, man, unless somebody's mad about it, it's going to be me in three different parts. Me
Yeah.
me as a patient and me as a doctor. There ain't really a difference. It don't matter where these people are born, they sound like they're born where I was born. It don't matter
Mm.
where these people grew up, they sound like they grew up where I grew up, because the nature of this modern contemporary style of performing requires sincerity in a new way. Unless you're doing a feature that's a period drama and your name Daniel Day-Lewis, Streep, or Washington, ain't nobody really worried about watching you not be you.
Yeah.
For me, that clicked, and I think each of these projects have sort of allowed for space for somebody like me to be like me on camera.
Luke, no one is mad. Everyone is delighted. Literally, you've gone viral of like what show is he gonna show up in next. It's great. But
Thank you.
you touched on so much there that I want to go into deeper, particularly like the idea that, characters can change over time. And I think your character in Shrinking is kind of the embodiment of that. Like there's so much growth. And in watching season 3, there were moments where I was like, is he gonna slip up? Like, is he gonna kind of revert? And you don't. Can you talk to me about sort of charting that growth and kind of seeing it happen and what's that like to like live in that skin and see the progress and have to.
Absolutely. I think Sean, and I've been saying this for a bit, he's the client we follow the most. Out of all the clients on the whole show, the one who's in every episode, who we get a little taste of every single time we watch Shrinking, is Sean. And I think the reason for that strategically as writers was they created an intentional sensation for the viewer where, Sean went through war. There's not much worse. War. The idea here is not to compare. The idea here is to start wherever you start and see where you can go. See if you can improve. See if you make that commitment to making a change and how that can affect you positively and the people around you. Because the fact that Sean and Liz connected, when Liz is somebody who's been struggling as to why she doesn't think she should feel bad because of the nature of her life, and the fact that she can connect with Sean is a prime example that we should not judge our starting points. We should just challenge ourselves to improve. So in Sean's case, watching his growth was something that's kind of essential if you're creating a show that's supposed to encourage people to participate in therapy. you take somebody who starts in the valley, and by the end of the show, they need to be on the mountain or close, because the goal there is to demonstrate the positive reactions and effects of committing to therapy.
Hmm. Well, I do want to ask you because, like I said, Bill Lawrence, it's like a very specific, like it's real, but there is a little bit of like what we want the world to be versus maybe necessarily what it is. How do you feel about like that tone? Is it hard to strike sort of like the, do you know what I mean? It's like a very
I
interesting
know
thing to
exactly what you mean.
watch, because I was also watching Rooster. I binged it last
Yeah.
night. And so it's like weird to be in these worlds where you're like, this would happen, but would it really?
Mm-hmm. I think the thing you're touching on is hope,
Mm,
because the reality is in life we find those moments where we're hopeful a lot less frequently than you would on a Bill Lawrence show. The reality is when you experience those moments of hope, there's so much time between them. And on a TV show, time is truncated, So take Rooster, for example. What is that? A year of like a college school year, and we saw it in 10 hours less. I mean, I don't know, it's five or it's a half hour show. So like half that time,
mm-hmm.
6 hours maybe with 35-minute episodes. And it's something that if you want to create a sort of wistful, um, idealistic, positive hope, you're gonna get a lot of that in the Bill Lawrence show. I think the reason he's so passionate about making that stuff is because there's enough of the alternative, And even I went to the WGA Awards last year, and I heard Vince Gilligan talk about this. This is the guy who made Breaking Bad, one of the most iconic television shows, one of the most celebrated, awarded, just lauded TV shows about somebody being evil. And
Mm-hmm.
he said himself that day, he was like, I want to create stories about the good people. And I want us to feel just as invested, just as connected, inspired, convicted as we do watching someone like Walter White. And at the time, he was talking about this new show he was cooking with Rhea Seehorn. And now we got Pluribus. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
think the reason you're seeing that on Bill's show is the same reason we're seeing that on Vince's show. And we're going to be seeing it a lot more frequently because we're starting to move past the idea that TV needs to be real in moral, in theme. It can be real in humanity. And that's what allows us all to buy into the hope. When you're watching the actors be natural, when you're watching the dialogue sound familiar, it allows you to believe that maybe this hopeful thing is possible. I think that's by design in this day and age. Bill, and shout out to Vince too. Want to work with that guy as well. I think that they've got their, they've got a good idea of what's a responsible way to make people fall in love with hope again.
That's so brilliantly said. And I guess I hadn't made the connection as clearly as you did, but do you feel like having worked in this world for 3 years, like, do you feel more hopeful in your day-to-day life? Like, has it made an impact on you, Luke, as a person?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if this was intentional, but everyone in the cast is already like that. I
Mm-hmm.
think I think because of the nature of the script, because of the nature of the material, there is something that the casting directors had an antenna up for. Shout out to Brett and Debbie. I always shout them out. They're incredible. There's something that they had an antenna for that when they were casting all of us and meeting, our characters, our version of the characters, more than they got to know us initially, they understood fundamentally that we had something in us that would bring these characters into the hope dimension as opposed to the dimension of fear and realism or cynicism. And across the board, there is always a sort of surrender to, even if it doesn't work out, we'll figure it out. And every one of us has that sort of thing. As a matter of fact, this starts at the top because I was talking to Jason a couple of months ago because I was getting his advice on the screenplay idea I had. And I had sort of had it in mind to cast someone else in this part that was very obviously initially conceived for myself. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
tell him that, but
Mm-hmm.
I was telling him about this idea, and I was like, oh, and then I can be strategic with it. And then he got back to me a week later. He was like, I just want to be honest. I'm not the guy for strategy. I'm the guy for emotional belief.
Mm,
It hit me like a ton of bricks. He was like,
mm,
you need to play that part. I was like, yes, sir. He was like, whether I make the movie or not, I am now a participant in Jason's delusional belief. We have this sort of faith, and that's true across the board. My wife and I are kicking it with Ted and Gigi tonight. We're gonna have a nice little dinner because they haven't met our second born yet. We want them to kick it for a bit. And we spent the whole weekend in Napa a couple weeks ago just uplifting each other. And I think that's a common thread among the whole cast.
mm. And look, when I spoke to you for season one, I think it was like one of the first interviews. You're very green at the time, and you were so excited to sort of get your feet wet. And now you've done all these things. You're popping up on multiple projects. How do you feel now? I mean, I remember you telling me sort of how like excited you were to just try new things and like stretch yourself as an actor. Do you feel like you've gotten to do that now? Like, obviously, there's so much more for you to do, but how are you feeling now, sort of in this? Like you've arrived a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I remember that. I think then I still had my mentality set on like, oh, I can't wait. So I'm playing the patient here. I can't wait to play like the gangbanger from South LA in
Mm,
this project. I can't wait to play the pastor from the South on this project. That's what I meant by like flex. I know myself well, and I hadn't crossed the threshold into accepting that that's not what I will be asked to do. You know,
mm,
when I think back to that, I can remember not quite having my finger on the pulse of my solution to my own artistic fulfillment in the business. Now I have it. And it's cool because back then I was still editing my short film. It was the first one that I made. And now my short film has premiered. It's out on YouTube. It's called Jade, by the way, for anyone who's interested. Me and my partner Noam Shapiro, we created that together. But we did that, and I had realized after that whole process that I can't outsource my fulfillment. I can't be a part of a Bill Lawrence show and expect to get artistic fulfillment from being a part of someone else's project. Now
mm,
that's not what the case is for me. I receive a lot of artistic fulfillment from working on a Bill Lawrence project. However, it's not my job to expect that. That would be irresponsible. To enjoy it, to have it, what a blessing. But if there's something that I want to do as an actor, to be the guy with the dialect and the different disposition and all the different prosthetics or whatever, the transformative stuff, I've got to make it because ain't nobody asking me for that. They're asking me to be me. And I need to be grateful that that's the case. So now looking back from that point, when I think of flexing and stretching, it's flexing and stretching within the tools where I'm using myself. And
right.
literally that's all I've done in Shrinking, in the Pit, and Abbott. These people walk like me, they speak like me. The main difference is that they think differently from me. And I need
Mm.
to make sure that all these characters have a different thought process, have a different system of mentality, because that's the only difference between me and them at this point. Because using myself is the reason why these people are hiring me. And I'm blessed, and I'm going to continue to explore and enjoy that.
I will say, as a viewer, it did feel like they were in very different. Obviously, like your presence is familiar and very like comforting to me specifically, but like it felt like I was watching three different people. So I do want to touch on that. Like in terms of the medical jargon, teacher jargon, shrinking jargon, what was the most fun? Did you sort of? I don't know. It was so interesting, particularly in the pit, because you're just all this medical stuff, and I was like, Luke, what's happening? Like, did you have sort of those moments of like I don't know, what was the transition or like just being in all these different skins feel like for you?
Literally the mentality. That's the only thing I focus on, because what's most important, at least right now, again, is to use myself in these parts. So for the pit, the main thing I have to focus on for Cruz is solving the problem with grace. That's it. That's
Mm,
exactly who that guy is, and that's sort of my thing in that show. Like even in very small moments, like there's this one moment I really had to work hard to refine, and it's when the paramedics had misplaced the pads that would pick up a heart attack on this lady because she had a large chest and they were scared about whatever. And then Robbie comes and tears them a new one. So for me, I have a very small moment where I walk in, I greet her, and I introduce myself. And it's so like gentle because I didn't want to come in and alarm her. She's already having a heart attack. So I needed to make sure my mentality was focused on solving the problem with grace.
Mm.
That is not even in the corner of Sean's mind. Sean
Hmm.
is somebody who's like, hey, at this point, if there's a problem, I'm either running from it or I am bulldozing it. There's two options. I'm fixing it with a hammer or it's not getting fixed. And that creates a completely different system through which he communicates his lines. He's either going to be this tentative, sort of wary guy, or he's going to talk hard, you know? And that's not Cruz. Even though we walk the same, talk the same, breathe the same, move the same, they're different people because of specifically because of how they think. And in Dom, I aim to please. I am a golden retriever. I aim to please. I aim to
Yeah.
please. That's definitely the one that's most fun for me to play. And he makes my smile muscles hurt because all he does is cheese at the camera. All he's doing, like a
Yeah.
happy to be there.
You'd make a good teacher though. It felt like watching it, like you're just you naturally have like that hopefulness, like you said. It felt very natural to watch. Okay, look, I have to let you go, but do you have any closing thoughts, any projects you're working on that you can tell me about, whether it's somebody else's project or something you might be cooking up? You
Yeah,
mentioned screenplay.
yeah, so I got a screenplay I'm gonna be taking out soon called Papa Bear. It's a not a kids movie, it's a family movie, which I've been carefully educated to switch that. I have a short film I worked on with my buddy whose name is also Luke. It's called Mama's Hands. It's gonna be coming out sometime soon. That one's really cool. I already mentioned my short Jade that's premiered on YouTube at this point, and yeah, I'm somebody who's always working on creating this. Some other stuff I got in the chamber too. I can't wait to talk about, but you know, I got to make sure I can get paid first. I'm trying to feed these babies. You know how it is.
Well, congratulations on everything. We'll touch base in a few years and then we'll get to celebrate all the accomplishments that you have coming your way. Thank you so much for your time. I so appreciate
You
it.
should. I really enjoyed this.